Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Steve Rasner. You're listening to the LionHearted Dental Podcast, and I am very, very happy to tell you that this is part 2 of a podcast we did last week with my new best friend, Dr. Vic Martel from Palm Beach, Florida. And Vic is just an amazing, not only is he an amazing interviewer, I've been interviewed by many people before. He does a darn good job. The role of an interviewer is to bring out the best in the person you interview. And he's just good at that. And then as I said last week, he's a very, very skilled guy that I've known about. So one of the cool things that you've heard me say this, doing this podcast and changing the format like I did starting last March, and anybody tuning in for the first time, I started these in 2018. And I don't know if you know this, Vic. I almost did every podcast randomly at night in my kitchen. And it was really dark behind me. I knew it was dark. I thought I looked better in the dark. So I didn't even try to make it light. Right? And so, we did those. And I got to be honest with you, I did get a lot of traction over the years. I know a lot of you love when I go on rants, which I'm capable of any time, including tonight. I just worked all day. I'm going to go on a rant right now real quick because I'm so comfortable with Vic. I don't even have to be scripted, but why don't you just say at least hi to the audience, Vic?
Join me on October 18th and 19th for 2+ days of inspiration and real business training.
This is the course that changes everything. Attendance is limited. Register now.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me back, Steve. I think the only reason I'm back is because we went into the rabbit hole at a level that I think it's great for the audience because I think they really enjoy hearing your years of experience. But we went into some kind of rabbit holes, and there's so much more that we left out that I think they would gain a lot of wisdom from that you decided to make a part 2, which is great. But I was just going to ask you before we started, because I know you had a crazy busy day because we actually even got started late. So go ahead. I want to hear about that.
About my crazy busy day?
Yeah.
Well, you know what I think, I know I just skimmed over. I don't know if it's worth the footage, Tony, but, so I did these podcasts for years and years, and a lot of you followed me and loved it just the way it was. But I wanted the better visuals and better audio, and we've gotten now to interview people that really bring a lot to the program, as much or more than I do. And it's cool for me. Because I don't know whether I would have ever gotten to have met you, Vic, albeit through. I don't think this. I got a feeling you and I are going to be doing some things together, course wise, and it's two like-minded individuals to just let it go. But
right.
I will tell you, the biggest part of a great day in your dental office. This is what it is. Everybody knows the term, the 3 words, the morning meeting, or some of you call it the morning huddle. But the question I have for you is, are you just going through the motions because you feel like you heard it was a good thing to do on a podcast, or you went to some seminar and they told you to do a morning meeting? Are you really doing the meeting the way that it can help you that day? And I always said this about morning meetings. I always said, if you do a morning meeting and you have a bad day for whatever reason, okay. But you'll never have a better day without a morning meeting. You'll never go into your day randomly, really not knowing the details of the schedule in front of you and maximize your clinical expertise during the day. Let me tell you what happened today. I ended up in a hornet's nest, and it's my fault because I know better. When you're in that morning meeting, number one, so how my meeting looks, just so you know, is I pay my clinicians, i.e. the hygienist, the dental assistants, front desk, to be in the office 30 minutes before we start, to look at the charts, to look at potential problems. I don't want them showing up for the sake of showing up in my meeting and not really, and that's what happens. Somebody in the meeting has to be the leader. And I'm fully on board with wanting to be that leader. I want to tell you something interesting as a side note. I remember my office feeling off for like about a year and a half ago. Just a lot of things were happening every day that jammed us up. We would get behind in the schedule. Maybe we'd forget, maybe a lab case wouldn't get checked in. Just things like this that happen to all of us. It rarely happens to me because when you run the meeting the way you're supposed to, those things don't happen, right? Well, what I realized, which I know this is ridiculous to say to you, but I had stopped participating actively in the meetings. So I had, at that time in my career, I was so on automatic pilot. And we, by the way, we're still doing very well from a financial perspective. Great productivity, great collections in the office, good new patient flow. But it still didn't feel right to me. You know, it was kind of like the Philadelphia Eagles last 2023 season. We were 10-1, and the rest of the nation was in awe by that powerhouse in Philadelphia that was 10-1. But anybody local that was a fan that were watching those games, even though we were 10-1, would say, this thing is going to collapse like a cheap tent. It is a house of cards. And you know what? We lost 6 of our last 7 games and got blown out in the first round by Tampa Bay. And that's what it felt like to me at this time in my career, a couple years ago. It seemed on numerically that we were doing well, but I could tell it didn't feel tight to me. And I had stepped out for about a year. I was here. I literally remember I would come in like 5-9 instead of 8:30, and I would walk past them. They would be out at the desk, and I would sit at this desk you see me at, and I would kind of say anything I need to know. And then I realized that meeting was not a meeting. So, you know, you have to lead it and you have to get details. So what happened today, so here's how I do it. I do my schedule first because my schedule isn't one schedule. I have a main schedule of maybe 4 to 5 patients. You know, they're big cases. They could be sedated cases. Sometimes it's 3 cases, you know. And there's a second column on me of permissible things like a single insert or something along those lines, right? Check for a wax tooth try-in. Or is this conversation bringing back post-traumatic stress for you? How long you been out?
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, I was working today thinking, and I'm being honest with you guys, the only point of this podcast since 2018 is if I help a few of you along the way, and my great colleagues like Victor in Florida and all the other ones I've had on the show since March, bring something to make your professional journey and even your personal life better. I swear that is really my agenda. Do you see me advertising sometimes on Instagram with, the course I'm having in October? Of course I'm going to do that because that's what that course is for. Not for all of you. It's for those of you that feel you're almost there, or maybe you once were there and you lost it and you need to get it back. And I feel there's very few people more qualified than me to do that. Why? Because I'm still in the front lines, and every day I take notes mentally, literally writing things down. So check this out. It's not going to sound like much to most of you, but I swear, Vic, this happened this morning at our morning meeting. I said, hey guys, I want you just to hear this. Do you remember yesterday how we kind of blew up, the schedule kind of blew up because we didn't really put a lot of emphasis on this side book patient, right? Well, we need to do that better today. So even though I said that in the meeting today, listen, it's you, doctor, it's your hygiene team, it's your assistants, and your schedulers out front. Everybody contributes to a good or a bad day. So there was one guy on there, one patient, who I hadn't seen in a year that was sitting in temporary crowns for a year. That's number one.
Wow.
Number two, he's handicapped. He comes in here on a wheelchair, and I work on him in his motorized wheelchair. The guy's a love. He's a veteran. I love the guy, but he doesn't have great hygiene. He's very handicapped. And nobody said anything. Here's what they said at the meeting. They said, and you can tell right now I'm getting intense because I'm reliving what I just went through, right? So I'm doing my normal schedule, extractions, grafting. I think I did crown lengthening on somebody in preparation for crowns in about 6 weeks. And I just see the side book thing, and I love this guy. It's not like this guy brings any angst to me. It's just that I knew he was in temps for a year, and it's literally hard to work on him because I got to position myself in a room, get his chair back as far as I can, which I've done with him for years. Well, his mouth hygiene was really, really bad. He hadn't been in a year. I take his temps off. There was no way those crowns were going in. In fact, his preps looked like they had leaked. They didn't look like they leaked. They leaked. And so on the spot, I didn't have 2 inserts. I had 2 core buildups, 2 repreps, 2 new temps, 2 a little bit of electrosurgery going on, or laser, whatever you guys use, and it blew up my day. And that, and on top, oh wait, I got one more for you. Right against him towards the end of his visit was an insert of 7 units of crown and bridge. Just single crowns. Let me tell you how desperate I was. And I don't know what you guys are going to hit me up with when you hear all this, but what you should say is, at least he's keeping it real, because he is. Because if it happens to me, I know it can happen to any one of you. So I walk in. It is now 30 minutes from the time I'm supposed to be on with Victor. And there's a patient in my room, numbed. He's already numbed for 7 units of insert. And I go to remove his temps, and I put my BD pliers down. I back up and said, I swear that's what I said. And I know the guy liked me a lot, and my work's been really good on him. He's getting lower crown and bridge, an upper implant retained bar overdenture. Okay? So right now he's in a temporary transitional removable prostheses. He looks a lot better. And this is a guy that said to me, by the way, which I knew he said this to me, about his 3rd visit in. He says, you know what this place is like? It's like going to the Mayo Clinic. Or it's like John Hopkins, both of which I've been to. And when he said that, I said, wow, thank you. You don't know how much that means to me because I'm not sure everybody gets it. But thank you. And I had that in my back pocket. So maybe because I did, I said, I got to ask you a monumental question or favor. I said favor. You're numbed. We just numbed you because I have 7 units of crown and bridge to put on your lower jaw. And I don't think I have the right amount of time. You were scheduled at the end of the day. Mistake number 27 today. You were booked against a patient in my other room. He was still in there, by the way. I think as I'm talking to him, I see the wheelchair upside down. Then I have to go finish. Anyway, I said, I really want to ask you if it's okay if I can reschedule. And that is one of the advantages that Dr. Martel brought up in an earlier podcast, that relationship-based practices, which is what I work for, is what you should work for. Not only do you rarely get sued when something goes wrong, but their patients are those kind of patients that you can just be drop dead honest with.
Join me on October 18th and 19th for 2+ days of inspiration and real business training.
This is the course that changes everything. Attendance is limited. Register now. That's what I was. I was basically saying to him, I am so sorry I numbed you, that I didn't have the chance to intercede, which I would have had I had the chance, and tell you that I would have rescheduled you, even though you'd made the trip over here before we even numbed you." And he was totally fine with it. And I realized the moment I did that, that was exactly the move I had to make. But my point is, we should have seen that in the morning meeting, and we dropped the ball.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. You know what? It's interesting because I was listening to that whole story, and there's so many little pearls in there. Number one, which is the very last thing you said, is the patient was okay with that because he trusted you.
Yes.
The patient was okay with that because he knows you only want the best for him. And when you're honest with the patient, and I've done that many times, so listen, I just don't feel I have enough time to do you the service that you want to do. Can we reschedule this?
Yeah.
And absolutely, because they know you and they have a relationship with you, I think that's huge. But one of the things you said very beginning of this conversation about your day is, and it really triggered something in me because I hear it all the time. You know, you said to me, you pay your staff, your team members, to be there 30 minutes early. That's so huge. And here's the reason. And you know, I guarantee you hear this. When a dentist takes your program, or, you know, let's say it's just local people from for the day, or I went like me, and you know this, I travel and then I go to them. But and I want the team members there. A lot of times the dentist, the first thing he'll ask me is, should I pay my team members to be there? And I look at them and I go, why wouldn't you?
Sure.
Because this is, you know, number one, you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your practice. And why would you want to, number one, make something mandatory and then have them resent the fact that you just want them there, but you're not going to pay? I mean, that not paying people is such a short-sighted something that doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't, because you know what? That small amount of money you're investing in your team members so that they know how you think, they know what you do, and they know that you care about them and the quality of it is huge. It's like, you know, I promote and preach all the time. Have lunch and learns with your team members. When your program comes up in October, I would want your attendees to bring, if they have team members that aren't there, go back, have a lunch and learn, pay them to be on the clock at lunch, buy them some pizza. Let's talk about what happened and how our philosophy has changed. But I'm never going to let, whether I pay them hourly for that little 30 minutes or hour, interfere with bringing the practice to a different level. And that's very frustrating for me, because some dentists just think, I don't really understand it. It's like, well, why should I pay them? They're really not working. Well, yeah, they are.
Sure. Well,
they're just doing something different.
Well, I first want to address one thing. I want to tell you the last thing, because I didn't say it, that I said to that patient that I asked to reschedule. And you'll love this. I said, you know, Al, the insert of the case is the most important part of the case. It's not like we went through the wax ups and the visit you, I talked like this to him, and the visit you came in and I prepped all your teeth and we did those things we call strep cord buildups. You don't even know what that is, do you? Right? I did. And I said, that was a lot of work, and this doesn't feel like that kind of work. It's not. But I'm not putting this in today fast. I got to make sure there's no cement remaining and that it takes time to do this right. And I'll be honest with you, if we reschedule it, I'll feel a lot better about that procedure. He was, as you said, he absolutely trusts me, and it was the right thing to do. Relative to what,
and I think that's the real world, Steve. That's why you're so relatable to your attendees and your listeners, is because that's where the rubber meets the road every day in each one of our practices, whether we admit it or not. We want to be, you know, the speakers want to seem like nothing ever goes wrong in their practices and everything's perfect, and it's just not. It's just not the way it is. We're just like them, just at a different point in our careers.
Well, I'm going to tell you, and this is why you're such a good interviewer, because I don't even know why what you're saying is sparking this. But I'm going to give you another truism, and it's this one. A lot of times on the show, I tell you the pluses, and I've told you the negatives about affiliating. In other words, about selling your practice. And lots of you have reached out to me with respect to that. You know, one of the other things that's negative, And we did a reel last week about the software changing, and it's absolutely not as good of a software as I used to have. And I don't have the power to stop them from implementing it. And by the way, I never thought about that when I said, hey, yeah, I'm going to sell, right? And they have been, in fairness to my group that purchased me, they have been very hands-off. I can tell you something else that definitely happens if you stay on. It's much harder, and I don't know exactly why. Maybe you know why, Vic. It's much harder to control your team. It's much harder to get all my team members to be as responsive to the dentistry I want to accomplish each day as it was before I affiliated. Before I affiliated, it was easier to be vigilant. It was easier to push people at their very best, to be their very best. It just seems like more people don't give as much of a hoot as they used to. I don't know why.
Well, you know what, Steve, I think what it really is, if you really kind of unpack that a little bit, is it's it might be unsaid or unspoken. It's just not as personal.
Right.
See, when you were on your own and you hadn't affiliated yet, the only person they knew that cared about this practice is Dr. Steve Rasner.
Right.
And you had the relationship with your employees that, for example, your hygienist that worked 30 years and just retired, and your front desk that's been with you 44 years. The only relationships they've had was that. And now we're dealing with this corporate entity that they have no relationship with, right?
Yeah.
They have the relationship with you, but they know that you're not the final answer any longer.
It's true.
Good or bad.
And that,
right?
Yeah. And it's a real fact that those of you, and I'm not saying it's a reason not to sell. I'm telling you it's a real deal. Like, it is much harder for, and I am having people since I affiliated that have retired or reduced their hours. And it's harder for me to motivate team members to the level of excellence than it was before. And that's simply the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that because, and you know this as well as I do, when you see the climate today, there's younger dentists that are affiliating early, which is maybe a little easier because they haven't done what you did for 44 years and me for 37 years. And we had these, I know you and I texted back and forth the last couple of days. We have these routines in our life where this is when I wake up. This is when I do this. This is when I do that. And ultimately things tend to change with that. It's funny but I want to go back real quick and then I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
One of the things that is so important, and I hope you talk about this in your, I'm sure you do, in your October program, is, you're more, I call them morning huddles, but to me they were vital. They was just, that was the heartbeat of my practice. And ultimately, I think you're right. And your team members look to you, whether good or bad or indifferent, or whether you like it or not, they look to you as the leader of the, because it's your practice, right? And ultimately, when the leader kind of steps back a little bit, even if it's subliminal, it's kind of like, gosh, does he care as much as he used to? Is he just kind of getting by? Is he just coming? And ultimately, that's why you caught it, but you got to the point where you engaged again.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big mistake if dentists don't have morning huddles, which I'm sure is part of one of your protocols. But I think it's so vital to the practice.
Well, part of my answer to what you said is it's an absolute part, a big part. I'll tell you why, of my October business course in Philadelphia. And the reason why is because you can't accomplish, you have to have two kinds of meetings. You have to have a powerful, direct, no BS morning meeting to reduce the bumps of that day, to maximize your productivity. I didn't say anything about seeing 16 patients. I just want to be productive in a schedule that is very manageable, where people that come into this, as I tell this my staff all the time, where the people that come in this office today, Wednesday, the 28th, every one of them, whether it's a new patient, which I had one today, a hygiene recall visit, a patient on my schedule, our goal is for every one of them to leave with a good vibe at Rasner is worth coming to. You know what I fight for now, Vic, now that I affiliated, and by the way, guys, I can stop in December. I could be done. And you learn a lot about yourself when you get to be my age. Vic's a little younger than me. What I've learned is I really do love dentistry. I do. It's one of the, I wish I was good at many, many things. I'm not, but I put a lot into this profession, and it brings me a lot of fulfillment, especially fulfillment when I have a new patient come in like I did today, and I know the answer to what he should do. I'm not pressuring him. It actually doesn't matter to me whether he does the case or not from a financial point of view whatsoever. It absolutely doesn't. If he wants to think about it forever until I'm retired, so be it. But what I do work for every day, and it's part of my morning meeting, is my brand. If you see me pointing out that window, that's Cumberland County, New Jersey. It's a far walk from Beverly Hills or upscale Atlanta or anything like that. But it's my Beverly Hills, and I grew up here. I came back to practice here, and my name is everything to me. And I'm not going to have it tarnished by anybody. And that anybody is keeping patients waiting, having poor work that, putting a crown in, it keeps coming out, that, not being honorable about failed work that happens to all of us. Not making people feel value. I'm probably not articulating this as much as great as I want to, but I'm very cognizant that the people that come into this office right here go out of network to come to this office. Okay? That means they pay me more. That means their insurance reimburses them less to punish them to come to me. That's what out of network means. Okay? And they're willing to do that for two reasons. One, they trust me. They know I'm not going to upsell them. They know that that they can trust the level of work I give them in terms of being as high level clinical dentistry as they can get. So they trust me and they have confidence in me. And they're the two things I go for. By the way, we're going to talk about everything in Philadelphia. We're going to talk about marketing. And you want to make it easy for you, those of you that can't come, your biggest brand should be trust and confidence. It should be what you should go for every day that you're in practice. Getting people to trust you and having confidence. Well, you tell me, because I know you know the answer. What's the best way to get confidence clinically? Lifetime commitment to CE. There's nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. The perfect segue, because this is exactly where I was going. Is so, and all that, and I know, which is, a funny story that you and I both speak, and and with that, you see people in your audience that sometimes, for me, it's surprising that they're in their 60s or 70s and they're still taking CEs. And you talk to them at the breaks, and we kind of relate because we're closer to the same age and things like that. But and here's what I kind of, it's a joke, but it's really not. I see two kinds of dentists at that age taking CEs. Number one, the one like you, Steve, that loves dentistry so much that they want to keep on going. And they're going to practice probably till they're 80, whatever that happens to be. And that's the ones that really kind of get me going and makes me love what I do. But then you have dentists that are 70, 75 years old, and they're practicing because maybe they have 4 X's, whatever happened, whatever reason, but they're there. But the ones that I enjoy are the ones that are there, like you were just saying, you took a spear course last year and things. You don't have to take any course. You've done it all already. But you understand that you keep your quality up by keeping your CEs up and by keeping your skills up. I mean, nobody goes forever without people helping them along the way. So that leads me to my question.
Yeah.
When you did in the past, and maybe you still do it now, and for your listeners, what would you what, for lack of a better way of saying it, and not by numbers, what would you say a good percentage of your yearly revenues that they can go, this is what I would like to put aside every year for CE, so that they don't think they're spending too much, or they know they're not spending too little. I don't think too much is a problem, but where would you go with that?
Well, all I can do is answer these questions honestly. With the exception of one course I ever remember, and that was Carl Misch's course in Pittsburgh, because this is 1990s, it was 20-some thousand. So it was a big hit.
Yep, it was. Yep.
I never thought ever about the cost of a course, not because I was so wealthy, because it wasn't that. I was not as profitable in my first 15 years because I know dentists in this community that have shore homes and fancy cars and much nicer homes than I had the first 15, 20 years in dentistry. I made fine living. I'm not complaining to anyone, but I spent a lot of money. I mean, just one example. I went to Spear or Coy's, I forget the number, it was somewhere between 18 and 20 times over a 10-year, and it was $5,000 back then a pop.
Yep.
Plus the flight, plus I like to stay nice when I go someplace, and I stayed in the Four Seasons in Seattle. I'll
Very
never
nice.
forget it. Every single time I went. In fact, I had to drive 35 to 40 minutes to get to the course once I was in Seattle because, I worked really hard and I wanted to treat myself nicely,
Sure.
And I don't know, it's just maybe me. Anyway, I never put a figure on it. Here's what I did do. As soon as I realized the value of a continuum, a course that was established to last 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, I think those type of courses are much more valuable than a single day course for most of us. And I'm not knocking the ADA or the AGD. And I know they have master track programs that I've been a part of, by the way, as an educator, all over the country. And I think they're terrific because that's a continuum. A master track is a continuum. It's just different instructors involved in a continuum. But I don't have a figure I can say. I don't think you could ever invest too much money. I think what can happen, and that's happened to me plenty of times as recently as 3 years ago. Did you ever read about a course and pay your money and get on the flight, get to the hotel room, get there the next day, and in an hour you knew you were in the wrong course? This isn't for me. And now you're there. So that means it is essential. It is your responsibility, Doc. If you're taking a continuum, ask around. Because, look, to me, there's certain people you just can't go wrong with, right? And those people are the legends or were the legends. I don't know how you can go wrong with Frank Spear's continuum. You're not going to get Frank anymore, and I don't like that. But he's got a great lineup there. And, Coy's is Coy's still. You got the Pankey and Dawson. Who leads Dawson these days?
It's changed. My very, very good friend took over Dawson about a year or two before Dr. Dawson died, and his name was John Cranham. Him and I actually took the Dawson together many years ago, and he's come to Florida, stayed at my house and things. But then eventually, what happened with Dawson, interestingly enough, and you may or may not know this, they sold.
No, I don't think I knew that. No.
Yeah, and now that's why you see them in Japan and all over Europe.
Oh, okay.
So the minute that happened, John stepped back, and we're considering doing some things together. But so it's become different now. So I'll be honest with you. At this point in my life, I couldn't tell you who runs it anymore because it's pretty much a private equity group, I think. But so you answered my question. As far as my next question was going to be, if you could pick that are still around that these listeners could do. If you could pick 3 mentors that you'd say can't go wrong here. This is somebody that you should really pursue, because you know what the other problem is, Steve, is that, and I'm sure you've caught this, because I don't know if you know this, I don't think I told you, after I took off of Dawson, I became visiting faculty with Dawson.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I used to go over there and help them with the aesthetic side of occlusion and things like that. But when people heard that about me, you know, I would always get this same answer from them. Oh, I took Dawson, which to me meant nothing. And here's what I'm saying. Did you use it? Did you bring it to the practice and change the practice? Or did you just take it, got your CEs, and you're still doing everything the same? I think the biggest problem with certain types of CE out there now, not now, forever, has been you take the CE, you spend all this money, and then you go back to doing what you've always done.
Sure.
And that becomes a challenge.
Yeah, and it's very easy by the setup of dentistry, where so many of us are by ourselves in a solo practice. You know, it's so easy to get into bad habits because nobody is really seeing you other than you're the last one that probably, until the next dentist does, that sees the margin of the crown you put in. You're the last one that sees the impression that you approve, that you sent to the lab or the scan or whatever. So you know if there's tissue, tissue's not optimal, and you always know the right thing to do. There's just nobody next to you except your soul to make you do it.
That's a good, wow. That, you know, it's so true, because I think when we leave dental school, that's the last time somebody's checking on our work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and now it's up to your integrity. It's up to your relationships. It's up to what you deem is acceptable. And that becomes something either really, really, I mean, my personality was for many, many years, I never felt good enough. I always wanted to do better than what I had been doing. You know, and I would meet Frank, and I'd meet Dr. Dawson, and I'd meet all these people in my life, and I go, wow, that's something to strive for. You know, and you know, I'll never be as on anywhere even level with them, but it was always a situation that I was always striving to be better. And I think when you strive to be better instead of good enough is when you always push yourself a little bit more. And I know you do that, and I know I've tried to do the same thing. But so that leads me to the next question, which is, okay.
Join me on October 18th and 19th for 2+ days of inspiration and real business training.
This is the course that changes everything. Attendance is limited. Register now.
Steve Rasner today is, in 2024, is now 25 years old instead of what you are now. What are you going to tell your listeners if you were 2024, you're 25, you just got out of dental school? Where are you going? What do you do?
Well, are you hearing these questions, by the way, or not? You're not hearing them. Okay. He just asked me, I'm 25 years old. What am I going to do getting out of dental school? Like, what's my move? Right. Well, the answer to that question is what I did it. I mean, you just said it. You said that you didn't feel good about yourself. Well, guess what?
Right.
I mean, I didn't get it. I wouldn't have gotten into dental school if I wasn't a good undergraduate student like every other dentist that's on my program. I mean, or that listens to us. And so I was at Rutgers College killing it. And I go to Penn in 1976, and I got my butt handed to me. The guys just were smarter than me and multi-talented. And it was a very uncomfortable position to find myself in. And I've said this before, as a result of severe competition and a lot of guys that were much more versed in the ologies, histology, biology, physiology than I was as a psych major, I'm telling you, I would get, if you had B's in my class at Penn, you were in the second half of the class. If you had B's. And so, and I didn't like that feeling because I came and I thought I was a stud academically, you know, I was an academic star, and I go to Penn and I wasn't. And, you know, there's only so many GPRs. So what would I recommend my 25-year-old self? I'm going to be honest with you. I did it. I would do it again. If I had to, I did it with the team I built around me. Before there was even courses for me, I would do research, and I don't know how I did it in 1980, but I would find out who other dentists respected and liked in the state of New Jersey. I don't remember how I did it. And I remember doing it. I'd call up and say, "Hi, Dr. Green. I know you don't know me. I'm Steve Rasner. I'm just a young dentist down in Bridgeton, New Jersey. I've heard some great things about you. Is there any chance I can just pop in one day and be a fly on the wall and kind of watch what you do?" And 90% of the time, I never heard back from them. But once in a while, I did. And when I started doing that, I went to bigger fish, like famous guys that wrote books.
Yep.
And you know, it's one thing that I discovered: the bigger the player was as an educator, you know, in terms of the notoriety, in terms of their success, like Bill Strupp, for example, the more they were willing to share and learn and want you to be your best self. So I kind of did it. To be 100% candid, Vic, I would go back and tell my younger self to just chill back a little bit and develop other passions as well. Because I think there is a thing, I think you do work better if you give yourself, in dentistry, and probably everything, if you give yourself some mental breaks where you're completely free from what goes on in this office, in your office. And whether that passion is through hiking, golf, whatever it is. I didn't do much of that.
When is your next surgery course?
Well, I have an extraction course coming up. It's sold out in 3 weeks. I don't mind talking about it real
quick.
That's
in 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have
and then your course
and then October, right, and then the implant course is November.
Great. So what I want to do, even though there's other questions that are more casual, but I think this is important since it's coming up so quickly. Which one's first, your October course or the surgery course?
The September is the extraction course.
Okay, well that one's already full though.
Yeah.
So let's
go to.
Okay.
It's October is the business course, and although I do want to see something here before I tell you this. 1 minute. Let me just make you smaller. Come on. Hold on. Because I know you might ask me about what's in the course.
Right.
Okay. So even though I've made him smaller, they still see me either way. It's got nothing to do with it. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'll just start. So Steve, I know you're. Let me. You can edit this out.
Okay.
What's your course in October called?
It's called LionHearted Live, which is
perfect.
Came from this.
Okay. So, all right, Steve. I know your program in October called LionHearted Live is coming up very soon, and what I like to do, and maybe it's just because I do courses and I kind of see things differently. Obviously, when you're the speaker, you see things differently than the audience members. But I think I can kind of relate to what they're looking for. So what I wanted you to do is just unpack it a little bit in this sense.
Yeah.
So the course runs from what day to what day? Is it Thursday to Saturday?
Yeah.
How's that work?
The course runs from Thursday night, October the 17th. There is a meet and greet cocktail party.
Got it.
That for like 2 hours. I think it's 6 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then with
right,
hors d'oeuvres and everything, yeah.
Got it. So what I was going to ask you then is, I want to unpack everything for this. Well, I want to look at your weekend.
Okay.
And here's what I mean by that. If Vic Martel was attending your course, can you just kind of give me from when I land and I get to you, to the hotel, to that Friday and then the Saturday, what am I looking at as far as how this is going to flow and what I can kind of expect in it?
Well, what happened with all this, just to backtrack a little bit, is I was doing the LionHearted Live podcast for years, and then randomly, and I swear on everything I have, it was random because I said one day doing a podcast, and I just felt it. Like I always felt on the camera like I was talking to whoever was listening to me. And I became very comfortable discussing and talking to the camera, which we know were thousands of people at different parts. Somebody might have been in the gym. Somebody might have been on their way to work on Monday mornings. Somebody might have been on a hike, listening to me on the audio, whatever it was. I really became, I think I came off as somebody that they could trust in terms, because I wasn't selling anything, and I wasn't.
Right.
And so I once said, hey, you know what, guys? As if they were in the room. We ought to do a LionHearted Live one time. Let me know, email me. And Vic, I always gave him my email. And back then it was very laughable to many people because it was Dr. Rasner at AOL.com. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And
I still have an AOL account as well.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how it started. And I got a bunch of emails. And then I got busy with life, and I wasn't even sure that I wanted to do it. And I don't know whether this is politically correct, what I'm going to say, but I saw so many courses advertised promising nirvana on social media, whether it was Facebook, Instagram, whatever it was, that rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, like, here's how you get 90 arches a month. Okay.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. Who wants to do that anyway? Not me. Okay. Here's how you get 220 new patients a month. Really? And how on earth are you going to examine even 40 new patients a month? Even more than 4 a week for real? Here's the and so I really believed, I did. I really not believe that I'm the only one with the answers, but I believe the journey and route that I've been on. And I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and I'm not the best clinician by any stretch listening to me now. I'm pretty damn good, but I didn't say I was the best, but I've had a darn good career. I mean, a really good career. So I said, what are the things, and I've done it not for 3 years, 10 years. I've done it for 44 years. I've said it on air before. I'm going to say it again. I went from 1980, Vic, to 2009. Think about that. Every year for 29 years, my practice went up in gross revenues. And that would be one thing if I did that and my profit structure was just flat or decreased. So who cares about that? That's not what it was. Right. It went up. I worked less. And I just was fortunate to connect with the right people, as we've already discussed, whether it was Frank Spear, who I got to know, and other people, or the people at the courses themselves that were like-minded, just like you and I are like-minded. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? And I kept bringing it up in my podcast over a period. This was going on for 2 years. And then I would talk myself out of it. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Because it's not for money. I promise you. I don't care whether you believe me or not. I always tell the truth. I don't think it's going to be a profitable the way I've designed it. Because if I wanted it to be profitable for me, I wouldn't have it at such a high-end hotel. So why am I doing it? I'm doing that because I'm doing it the way I did my practice. I'm doing it the way Steve Rasner does things. So I actually want you to walk in Thursday night to the Rittenhouse Hotel in Center 18th and 18th and Walnut in Philadelphia. It's in the dead center of the city, and it's gorgeous in October. And nice. I want you to walk in to. I'm hoping it's going to be a crisp fall day like we experience this time of the year in this area of the United States. And I want you, and I'll tell you something else. If I really wanted to be guaranteed to be big and profitable, then I would have designed it differently. I would have had less of a fee, and I would have filled up the room with 200 people. This isn't about my ego. It's not about me. I love big crowds. Of course I do. But I really want to impart change. Give your office, and that's why I insist you have to bring your business people with you. We didn't charge separately for that. It was one flat fee. You could bring your entire team if you want to bring your entire team. I did that on purpose because you have different size offices. So I need your new patient coordinator, your scheduler, your major assistant, your financial coordinator, because I know that what I've done here for 4 decades can be duplicated. And so what's important? What are we going to go over? We're going to have certainly the lunches and the breakfast and that cocktail hour and all that stuff's going to be first class, but we're going to get dirty. Okay. And I'm going to be in a room. I limit it to 15 offices tops. So I want you to picture this. And we're going to talk about, well, what are you here for exactly? And when I say here, in dentistry, what is your goal? Is your goal? Now, I know that's not the people at this course because I've filtered out people like that. But you still can go down the wrong rabbit hole, as you say. You know, even when you aspire to do things ethically, the people in that room are going to be very like-minded. They just don't know how to get to the next level. So what's the anatomy of a superstar team? Well, the anatomy of a superstar team is everything from LionHearted schedulers. A LionHearted scheduler is a scheduler at your front desk that understands the morale breaking and unproductivity effect of broken appointments. I don't want them to be scared of a broken appointment. I want them to understand why my scheduler that's going to be breaking in a breakout and teaching them what I've taught her over the years. Vic, we've had 8 years of courses in my Rasner Institute. Surgical courses, we do 35 surgeries a course. So we do 4 courses a year. So what's 4 times 35? 4 times 30 is 120. 140 patients a year. 140 patients a year times 8 years. So whatever that math is, 800, over 1,000. You know how many broken appointments we've had in 8 years? None. Zippo. Now, how you think that's just luck? So she used the same principles she uses in my practice. You know, there's things you'll learn. Okay, do you ever have a front desk person say to you, I left 3 messages. Oh, don't be telling me that. Did you leave the death message? Because the death message is this. I used it today. I swear that exact thing happened because Michelle is not my front desk scheduler anymore. She's gone on, expanded to, she runs the entire operation. She can't be calling every patient that comes here. And so I asked my front desk team member, why don't you leave the death message? The death message is this. Hi, this is Jessica from Dr. Raz's office. It is presently 1 o'clock. If I don't hear from you at 3 o'clock today, your appointment will be removed. That's it. That's how we do it. That's scheduling. That's why I have such little broken appointments. Okay. It's, and I want that part of my team and part of their team to understand how it breaks somebody's spirit to walk in on Monday mornings. And I know everybody can relate to this and have that 9 o'clock on the hygiene schedule break. I know so why did that happen? It doesn't have to happen because there's a lot of reasons I'm not going to go into it right now. We go over that. We go over, well, how do you schedule for maximum productivity? And most important, besides going into the details, what really counts with a relationship-based practice. I mean, like the one that allowed me to reschedule that patient today that I talked about. I'm telling you, it's not one patient out of 50. It's practically every patient. Not all the same level, but pretty pleasurable, intense. I better change those words, Tony. You know, pretty solid, rock solid relationships. You know, but a big thing that we're gonna do are 2-part, and you would be great, by the way. I wish maybe you'll be at the next one for this part. Is the whole treatment. It's case presentation, but to get to case presentation, You have to know what to recommend, what
Right.
to do when. And that's really something that a lot of dentists just literally don't know. And I've been the beneficiary of many guys way smarter than me that taught me how they went about that. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny that you say that because, it's that old adage, you don't know what you don't know. But obviously, everybody knows that saying. But I have this part of my lectures where I talk about it, and I'm sure you've already heard of this. And I start off, and another term for you don't know what you don't know is unconscious incompetence, which means you're just clueless. It's okay because nobody's shown you the way. And I think what your program does is it shows people that what you're talking about can be done by anybody as long as you understand it and somebody teaches it to you. And that's the power of it. It's the power of I don't need to make those types of mistakes any longer. And the reason is I have the answer to do it a different way. And what you go from unconscious incompetence to what we call conscious incompetence, which means I kind of know what I'm doing wrong, but I don't know how to get there quite yet. And then conscious competence means I know what I'm doing. Steve taught me everything that I need to do. This is the way I'm going to do it from now on. And that's the beauty of handling this at a level where your program is just going to give them this roadmap that is something that, I mean, where are they going to get that?
I hope the difference is this. You heard me say 20 minutes ago that one of the reasons I pursued this course, and I mean it. I mean, listen, I can't fix everything. I can't help my DNA. It just rubs me the wrong way when I see in social media about the arch master or come this weekend. And I know I said it. I don't think that's the road to go down. I think it's a very bad road to go down for you. Can we talk about that for a minute? Do you really think that your goal in dentistry should be to take a patient, take all their teeth out, because some guys taught you how to talk people into that, reduce a massive amount of bone so you have interarch space, place implants, put an all on them. I don't care how pretty it is. Is that really the ultimate goal that you want in life? And to be able to say to yourself, well, I do 30 of these, a month or whatever that number is? I don't think so. I think it'd be much better for you to have a variety of treatment plans, and much better for you to understand what took many years for me and others, that you're not going to get all the cases, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing that you don't get all the cases, and to slow down. So slow down. Like, so where are you scheduling, for example, your new patient at? You're doing that right in the middle of 4 units of Crown and Bridge? Because that's happened to me in my career. That's a very bad thing to do. So they're going to learn. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to be, because I've collected all this data for years and years, including current data. So I'm going to hit them out. Like, when you go to a movie and the opening scene just blows you away, and you know it's going to be a good movie, right? I'm not going to make them wait till Friday afternoon to start go into case presentation and how do I get people so accepting of comprehensive dentistry. I'm going to blast them 15, 20 minutes into the course after I introduce myself and everybody else. They're going to see a picture on the screen of a case that became a case and why it became that, and built around that. And that's going to go through the whole 2 days. I'm going to just slam them with one case after another. And then I'm going to break and cut away from that and talk about the team and the staff reports. I'm going to break away from that over to here. I'm going to talk about taking more time with all your procedures. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's exactly what you should do, right? To break away from that and talking how to become legacy in your community. That doesn't happen with anything but a monthly, not a morning meeting, a monthly meeting. Because monthly meetings, and by the way, Vic said it earlier, you're paying your staff for the monthly meeting. Just get over yourself, okay? That's not going to be the reason that you go broke. That's not going to be the reason ever that you fail. So it's just like paying the electric. The same goes for investing in CE, not only in yourself, but your team. I know that gives you a little bit agita to some of you to do that, but it's the way to go. You know what I used to do? I used to break up what I hoped my team would take. And I was all in all these mailing lists for my hygiene team. I love it when my hygienist team takes a pharmacology update course. I can't take all the courses, so I'll send them to take them, and they'll come back and share all this new information that I don't know about, with the whole team and me. And I would have my assistants. I sent my assistants to Strupp a couple times, to Poly, and those to learn how to do,
great program,
exquisite provisionals. So I always pushed my team. And I'm going to talk in October of what, in my opinion, what that relationship should look like in terms of what you do for your team. To, at the end of the day, guys, this is what I know to be true. And October is going to be the blueprint for that. It's going to go so fast, despite the fact that I'm telling you it's going to go fast. In spite of that, it's still going to go fast. And you're going to very quickly become 40 or in your 50s and even later. And you want to look back. You're not going to get the second chance. And love what you did for yourself, for your community, for the people that work for you for all those years, for the patients you go to recall in. And you're proud of that. And it's not going to be every patient, because it's not for me either. It's more like sometimes, damn, what was I thinking that day? Right? And it happens. It happens. And I want you to get that part out of that 2-day course, because I don't want you to be too hard on yourself, but I want you to leave and know how to run your professional life with high ethics and feel good about the whole culture of your organization. And I think it's an opportunity from a guy that really doesn't have an agenda other than my passion for sharing this.
Well, it sounds like, Steve, to wrap it up for you is, number one, you sound like me and Bill and everything when you start a program. And I feel this way on everything I do. I just want to open up this fire hose and just give them everything I have, because I don't ever want them to think that I slighted them in any way. And I mean, I would, if I wasn't on vacation, I'd just come to watch, because I think it's such an exciting program to do. And I think they just need to be ready for this fire hose of information. And then going back to what you said a few seconds ago, which is so, so true. And I don't know if a lot of dentists can really grasp this, is, and maybe that's why we need to seriously, you and I off camera sometime, talk about an exam comprehensive treatment planning course.
Yeah.
Because how many dentists out there today, and maybe it's always been this way and I've just kind of lived in my own little bubble, are you treatment planning every day? For example, like, I agree with what you said. I could never take 100 patients a month, or I couldn't. I just wouldn't be able to do what I do. But are you treatment planning your patients out of finances, or out of relationship?
Right. Sure.
That's it.
And
and when you treatment plan out of relationship, they trust you, and then things go well.
Well, that's a loaded statement, because what about the guy, and we're going to talk about this too, because what about the doctor that just bought a practice, and he bought a practice from good old Joe, who everybody loved, good old Joe, but good old Joe didn't diagnose anything. Good old Joe was, we're going to watch that, and it's okay, and this one's okay. We'll get to that next time. And so how do you become not the bad guy? I know how to do that. I do. And I'm going to share those things. I'm going to give you the essence of this podcast right now, and how it reflects on the October course I'm going to do. And I don't know how this is going to go over I have a lot of people that follow me, but I'm just going to say it. You know how many people said to me, do you know what you could do, Steve? Do you know that you can create how many masterminds you can create from this course and then turn that into monthly this, that? And I said, is that why you think I'm doing this? I don't give a whit. And I didn't say whit either. Okay? I don't care about that part of it. I don't even know if I want to do that. What I want to do is give you the most I can give you in 2 days. And if you need follow-up, which some of them you're going to need, we're just going to talk. Okay? Maybe someday if it becomes overwhelming, I'll change that tune. I can't be on the phone 5 days a week. I do want to help as many people as I can, as long as I can. But I'm not coming at it from that point of view. I'm coming at it from, I know I can change things. in 2 deep days. And that's what's going to happen.
You know, Steve, it reminds me, and I'll give you a little. And I don't know if you've ever read this book, but I think all the listeners would really relate to it. And it's a book. It's a very quick read. It's called Halftime, and it's a book by a gentleman. The author's name's Bob Buford, Buford. You can get it on Amazon, anything.
Yeah. I'm texting it now.
But in any event, here's what it says. You know, we have all these different times in our life. When you're young and got out of school, you're growing, you're just trying to make it and learn and get all the CEs. When you're in your 40s and things like that, you're growing the practice. You're just really investing in it. But then there comes a point, and I reached this many, many years ago, and I'm sure you did too, is what's your legacy?
Yeah.
What are you going to leave behind? You know, and I know by what you just said that you don't coach and do these things for money. It's because what I know and what you know is this. If I leave this profession and I leave this earth and I left somebody better off than where they were, and I know patients are being treated better and more treatment planned, maybe because of one thing I said or one thing I taught, how much is that worth? It's worth way more than the money that I would have made in tuitions and things. But that's a mindset. And I know you have that, which is maybe that's why we get along so well. So
I appreciate you, buddy. I do. I mean it when I say it that this podcast has been a blessing for me because I've gone to a lot of guys I interview. I knew you're one of them. I didn't. And I'm just thrilled we've become good friends. And you're going to see a lot more of my buddy Vic here as we go forward. Thanks, everybody, for joining. And I'll see you next week on the LionHearted.